Hey everyone, we are going to wrap up chapter 1A today. This is our last day of notes. We are going to talk about combining like terms and the distributive properties. So you should definitely have your notebooks out, have a quiet place to sit and work for a little bit. Like always, I'll try to keep this under 15 minutes, but you know, sometimes I get a little carried away. But just make sure you're writing these down because these examples are something where you definitely have to show your work. So just make sure that you're practicing how we're showing our work so that on tonight's homework, whether you're copying it down in a notebook or if you are printing it out and doing it right on the worksheet, you need to be showing your work in a similar way that we're showing it right now, okay? So the first thing we're talking about is what does it mean to combine like terms? First of all, you have to know that word term. So a term is a number, variable, or product or quotient of numbers and variables separated by pluses or minuses. So this is the important part. Anytime you see a series of letters and numbers separated by plus and minuses, those are terms. And then another vocabulary term you need to know is a polynomial. It's a group of one or more terms. If it has one term, we call it a monomial. So an example of a monomial would be like 3x. There's a 3 and an x, but they're being multiplied together. They're not separated by pluses or minuses. So that's just one term. Monomial, one. Binomial, sort of like a bicycle has two wheels. A binomial has two terms. So you'll have two pieces that are separated by either a plus or a minus. And then like a tricycle has three wheels. A trinomial has three terms. So 2x squared minus 3x plus 7, you can see we have this term, and then a minus, this term, and then this term, okay? And typically, if it's a minus, we would make that whole term negative, so we'll think of this as a negative 3x. More vocabulary, so a constant, and honestly, since you guys are working from home, I know you're probably taking like just notes after notes after notes. If you don't write down the vocabulary, I am not going to freak out. The parts that I want to make sure that you're writing down are the actual examples, but the vocabulary is still important for us to know, to talk about, so we all get on the same page with what these words mean. But if you're not writing these down, not a big deal. A constant is a term without a variable, so like plus 5. 5 would be a constant. A coefficient is a number and a variable put together, but it's the number part, okay? So that's the numerical factor in the term. I always like to think of when you see like co-worker or cooperate, it's when two or more things are working together. Same thing here. The coefficient is the number part that's working together with the variable part. And then like terms, that's really what we're focusing on today. Like terms are terms that have the same variable with the same exponent, and we don't really care if the coefficients are the same or not. So to be like terms, same variable, same exponent. All right, now that we're all on the same page, here's your example. So pause the video here, write this down in your notes. When you're ready, hit play, and we'll start combining them. So before you can combine like terms, you have to identify the like terms. Like terms have same variable, same exponent, okay? So we always start with the largest exponent first when we're combining like terms. So negative 4x squared and negative 6x squared, they're both negative. So I can add the coefficients. So add this guy and this guy, and you keep the variable and the exponents the same. So this would be negative 10, keep the x squared. Do not change the exponents, do not change the variables, okay? So now that we're done with our x squareds, go to your x's. So we have positive 11x minus 5x. So 11 minus 5 is going to be a positive 6x. And then we have our constants. So we have 10, and then you got to keep this negative or this minus with the 15. So 10 minus 15 is negative 5. Now, you can always double check, are any of these like terms? If you did it right the first time, you should not have any like terms right there, and that is our answer. That's as simplified as this is going to get. All right, and here is number 2. So for example 2, go ahead and pause, write it down if you need to. I am gonna jump right in. So same variable, same exponent, and the exponent has to be with that variable. So do you see how, I'll just start in the front. 14x squared y to the third. So I need only x squareds y to the third. So here's another one. There's no number right here, no coefficient. Anytime there's not a coefficient, it's like we have a 1. So this is 14x squared y to the third plus 1x squared y to the third. That's going to be 15x squared y to the third. And then back here, we have x to the third y squared, x to the third y squared. So we can combine those as well. And this guy has to stay with the 6. So it's like a negative 6 plus 1. That would give me negative 5 x to the third y to the second. As always, if you need more time, go ahead and pause it. If not, I'm going to keep us going. So the next thing we're going to look at is the distributive property. We talked about the distributive property last week. It was actually in our properties lesson that first day that we took notes. But this says that anytime you're multiplying the outside, you can multiply by each thing on the inside. So if we have a number like 5 times and then a quantity x plus 6, we can multiply each piece by that 5. Whoops, too far. So what I need to do, and usually we do like these guys. So 5 times x would be 5x. Keep your plus sign. 5 times 6 would be 30. And those are not like terms, so you cannot make it like 35x or something crazy like that. So you are good to go. All right, so here's another example of that. This is example 3. So I'm going to distribute that negative 3 to each of the terms inside the parentheses. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And then I'm going to think of this as a negative 3 and a negative 4. So a negative times a negative is going to be a plus 12. Some people, here's an alternative. If you are someone that just kind of struggles with the signs, go ahead and keep it a negative or a minus. Keep this guy. And then just think of the negative 3 and the positive 4, which would be minus a negative 12. Now, the only problem with doing it this way is you can't leave your answer like that, so you'll just have an extra step of work where you'd see that a minus negative would be a plus. I don't care how many steps it takes you, as long as you're showing your work and I can kind of see where you're coming from. All right, we got some fractions too. So this one I am going to write out just because we're still sort of learning these fractions or reviewing these fractions. So I'm going to make each of these guys fractions, and I am, like I said, going to write this out. And the reason I'm writing this out is because I think we can simplify both of these. So here we have the 2 and the 6. So I'm going to make that a 1 and a 3. So 3 times 3x would be 9x, all over 1, so I don't need the over 1 right now. Keep my minus. That's going to be a 1, that's going to be a 7, so minus 21. Okay, we are flying through the examples today. All right, I am going to call this our last example for today, and then you guys also have a homework assignment, and it's Monday, so you also have to watch your Monday meeting today if you haven't done that already. So let's go ahead and just start at the beginning. So I am going to distribute. Ooh, I should also mention, sometimes people are like, but in the order of operations, you said do parentheses first. Notice these aren't like terms. So that's why we can't combine them first. There's nothing to do inside the parentheses. So typically, yes, we start inside the parentheses, but right now there's nothing to do in either sets of parentheses, so that's why we jump to distributing. So we have negative 5 times 2x squared, so that's going to be negative 10x squared. Next I'll have a negative times a negative, or a minus a negative, so that's going to be a plus 15 plus 21x squared minus 35x plus 14. All right, so start with your largest exponents. We have x squareds. a negative 10x squared plus 21x squared. So the signs are different. I'm going to subtract the numbers, keep the sign of the larger number. So that's going to be 11x squared. Then back here I have an x term with nothing that will combine with it. So just copy down the minus 35x. And then here we have a 15 and a 14, so a plus 29. All right. It is Monday by the time you guys are watching this, so I, like always, am online from 8:30 to 3:30, so if you have any questions, just let me know. We are going to review this material tomorrow, and you have your first quiz this week. So if you are not keeping up, or if you don't feel like you have a good handle on the material, we need to set up a meeting time and talk one-on-one and see how we can get you caught up. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye.